Hello, welcome back to the channel where today I am very excited to finally be able to talk about this album, the legendary Buckingham Nicks by Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks. Released on September 5th of 1973, Buckingham Nicks was the one and only album released by Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks as a duo. They would obviously later go on to join Fleetwood Mac after this. But the album at the time, this album, it was a complete and utter flop. It went completely under the radar, no one paid any attention to it. And it went out of print for over 50 years until just the other week at the time of recording this, 2025, it finally got re-released. And I'm finally able to talk about it, which is very exciting. So before we go any further, I'm going to show you this one and only copy of the album that I own. So this is the one and only copy of the album I own. Obviously it's a 2025 reissue, it's not an original copy, but it's pretty similar to the original copies from what I can tell. This is the front cover, it's a pretty famous picture. So that's the back cover there, folks. As you can see, a bit of colour, but that's all that's on the back. This picture, there's no track listing or anything listed here. So this is the gatefold. As you can see, we have a great picture of Lindsey and Stevie there, and we also have all the lyrics. However, for some bizarre reason, these lyrics, they are not in the running order of the tracks on the album. They're out of order. They're in just a completely random order. They're not alphabetical or anything like that. It's just really random. You also have all the personnel, everyone who played on the album. Interestingly, here on the reissue, Stevie's name is spelt right. On the originals, the E is missing at the end of Stevie, I believe, so that'll be a way to tell the difference. So yeah, there you go, there's a gatefold. And very quickly I will show you my copy of the album. This is on the baby blue colour. So, very nice, isn't it? So hopefully you can see that okay. That is side one, just on a red rhino label. And there you have side two. So yeah, very nice to own this. I don't think there's anything else in there. No, that is it. So over to me now with the album background. Before we dive into this album background, can I just say at the time of recording this video, I actually have COVID and it's affecting my throat. So I could have waited, but I want to get this video done. I've been away last week in Spain. I think that's where I've got it. And I want to get it done, this video, because I've waited long enough to talk about it. So COVID is not going to stop me, hopefully. So hopefully my voice keeps on going throughout this video, but we will see. Anyway, yes, Buckingham Nicks. This album, as I've said before, it went out of print for over 50 years because it was a flop. But just the other week, September 19th, I think it was, 2025, this finally got re-released. I did go to buy it on the day it came out, but my record store hadn't got it in. Basically, the record label, from what I understand, cocked up and didn't manufacture enough copies of the vinyl. They didn't think the demand would be there for some bizarre reasons. So yeah, there wasn't enough printed, but thankfully he did manage to get me one in, and yeah, this is it here that I've just shown you. So this album, I'm going to be honest with you, before this got re-released, I hadn't heard it. Now I know it's been on bootlegs for years. It's been on YouTube. People have recorded, who had original vinyl copies, which there isn't many of, recorded it and put it online. I'd never listened to any of them, although I will be honest, I have heard Crying in the Night and a little bit of Frozen Love before, but other than that, I hadn't heard anything else from this album before. So this was kind of a new album for me, which is very exciting. So let's dive into the story of this album, and to begin with, we've got to go all the way back to 1966 when England won the World Cup. This was the year when Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks met for the first time at school. So I think at this point Stevie Nicks was in senior year, and Lindsey Buckingham was in the junior year because she's a year older than Lindsey. Now the pair initially connected over their love of harmonies. They would harmonise singing California Dreamin' by the Mamas and Papas together, but they wouldn't really properly collaborate musically until 2 years later when Lindsey Buckingham in 1968 asked Stevie Nicks to come and sing in his band called Fritz. This was a band which Lindsey played bass in, and he was in it with his school friends, so Stevie came along to sing. Now despite them both writing their own songs, they would never perform any of their own songs with Fritz. They would only ever do covers with Fritz, but their time in this band did allow them to learn the craft of being on stage and improve their confidence of being on stage and as performers. Now eventually Fritz would come to the attention of record producer Keith Olsen, and I imagine Olsen, when he seen the band, thought, oh, Lindsey, Stevie, them two, they're really, really good. The rest of the band, not very good. Because he would then ask Lindsey and Stevie to come down to his studio and record a demo. But just the duo, just the pair of them. He didn't want the rest of the band there, he just wanted the two of them to do it. He then took this demo to Polydor, the record label, who liked it and gave the pair a record deal, so they would now carry on as a duo. So ecstatic at the fact that they got a record deal, they now wanted to prove themselves worthy of having this, so they spent the entirety of 1972 writing songs. Now, during this year, the pair of them dropped out of college and they moved to Los Angeles so that they could focus on their music. Now, whilst living in Los Angeles, Stevie would take up multiple jobs, so that she could pay the bills, pay the rent, and then Lindsey, he would stay at home perfecting his craftsmanship of being a guitarist. Now the sessions for this album would eventually get going in 1973 at Sound City Studios in LA, and both Lindsey and Stevie have described them as being a very positive experience. There was obviously no fighting in the studio, as would later come. In this period they were getting along just fine. Ain't it a shame that didn't continue, eh? Now upon its release, Buckingham Nicks was a complete commercial flop, despite Lindsey and Stevie's best efforts to promote the album. Now what didn't help them was the fact that Polydor, the record label, they also weren't really interested in the album. Their promotional teams put no effort into promoting the album, they just ignored it basically. And Stevie would later claim that when she went into record stores at the time, she couldn't even find a copy of the album, let alone hear it getting played on the radio, because radio stations also weren't interested in playing this album. Except one station, I believe, in Birmingham, Alabama. Not Birmingham, down south in England. Birmingham is not the north of England. Just isn't. Birmingham in Alabama, they were playing this album, some of the songs off it, and it apparently gave them a little bit of a cult following down there. God love them. So, yeah, other than that, it was a flop, basically, except in a small place in Alabama. So since the album being a flop, Polydor would make the decision to delete the album entirely from its catalogue, and then that was it. It would fade into obscurity for over 50 years. It would go out of print. And Lindsey and Stevie, they were distraught by this. They were heartbroken that the work they put into this had gone completely under the radar. Nobody was interested, and the record label had just completely disowned it. So they spent the rest of 1973 just working to try and pay their rent out the music industry. However, around this period, the producer of the album, Keith Olsen, would play some of the songs to Mick Fleetwood, who was looking around in LA to find recording studios for Fleetwood Mac to work in. Now, he heard the song Frozen Love, and regardless of what he would tell you these days, he was very, very impressed with Lindsey Buckingham, and he would ask Lindsey Buckingham to join the band. However, Lindsey said no, he won't, unless he lets Stevie also join the band. Mick Fleetwood, John McVie, Christy McVie, the three of them said, yeah, okay. And that was it. Buckingham Nicks joined Fleetwood Mac, and the rest, as they say, is history. So despite the huge success the pair would go on to have later with Fleetwood Mac and their respective solo careers, Buckingham Nicks would remain out of print until just this year, 2025, when it finally got reissued just the other week, as I said earlier in the video. Now it's taken us a while to get here, but I'm pleased to say it's not been a commercial flop now. They're just in the charts last week. It got to number 6 here in the UK. And I believe it got to number 11 in the US. It didn't chart originally at all anywhere in the world, so yeah, they've done a lot better this time. They went on to do alright for themselves, and this album has had its reappraisal. It probably would have got higher in the charts if the record label had printed enough vinyl copies, pressed enough vinyl copies I should say. How on earth they managed to do that, I don't know. But there you go, there is the background of Buckingham Nicks, a fantastic, fantastic story of a fantastic pair. It's a shame they didn't stay close friends, and it ended the way it did, but there we go. So that's the album background. We will now dive into a track-by-track review, and kicking off the album we have Crying in the Night, which was the first thing the duo actually recorded for the album as well. Now this is a Stevie Nicks penned song, and let's not beat around the bush here, it's a brilliant song, and it's a contender for the best song on the album. It kicks it off really, really strong. For the first thing the pair ever recorded, they already sound like masters of their crafts here. This sounds as good, basically, as any of the great Fleetwood Mac songs. That's how good this song is. I really like this song. It's Stevie doing what she does best. Lindsey's guitar playing is also fantastic on here. When the re-release came out, this was put out sort of as the lead single. It was the first thing that got released when this reissue came out. At the time, this was never put out as a single, and I'll get onto it later in the video with a later track, but I personally think this should have been the lead single. I think this is a very commercial song, and I think this would have got a lot of airplay on the radio back in the 70s. But for some reason, they didn't think this was single material, and they didn't put it out. But yeah, it's a great song, fantastic opening track, and it sets the tone of the album perfectly. Fantastic, fantastic song. I love Crying in the Night. Stephanie comes along next, and this is the first Lindsey song of the album, and it's just an instrumental, this song. But it's a fantastic instrumental, and it goes to show that that year or whatever it was that Lindsey spent perfecting his guitar playing has really paid off here, because he sounds bloody brilliant on here. The song itself is about Stevie Nicks, whose real name is Stephanie. This is just a love song that Lindsey wrote for her, although he couldn't be bothered to write the lyrics. But nevertheless, it's a great instrumental. You can feel the emotion in the actual music here. I mean, I like instrumentals regardless. That was a little joke, by the way, there. I do like instrumental pieces, and this is a really nice one. Yeah, not much to say about it other than it's a great little song, this. So track 3 is titled Without a Leg to Stand On, and once again, this is a Buckingham track, but this time Lindsey has actually bothered to write some lyrics, so therefore we get to hear him singing the lead vocal for the first time here. And it's a really nice song, this one. It's not one of my favourites on the album, but it's still a really nice tune. It's got a proper 70s soft rock California vibe, which is a very strong vibe throughout this album because, funnily enough, they lived in California and they were making soft rock. So, funnily enough, it gives it a 70s soft rock vibe. Hey, who'd have thought it? Anyway, yeah, without a leg to stand on, it's a decent tune, this one. Like I say, it's not one of my favourites on the album, but the harmonies from Buckingham Nicks are fantastic on it. Lindsey's guitar playing is also great on it. Yeah, it's decent enough. It's not a bad song by any means. So next up comes Crystal, and this is an interesting song on the album because although it was written by Stevie, it's actually sung by Lindsey. Now, apparently the reason why this happened is producer Keith Olsen, he thought that the style of this song suited Lindsey's voice better than it did Stevie. Now recently, in just a recent interview not that long ago, Stevie said the reason why Lindsey sings it is she made him sing it because this song is about their relationship, and this was obviously the time when they got on and everything was going hunky-dory. So he wanted her to, she wanted him to sing it, and that's what it was apparently. So there's two conflicting stories. Believe what you will, Stevie Nicks has got a reputation and a bit of a track record for over-exaggerating things, so who knows which one of them is true. But yeah, it's a nice little tune, this. Fleetwood Mac as well like this song because the pair would go on to re-record it on the 1975 Fleetwood Mac self-titled album. Gotta be honest though, I prefer this version to the Fleetwood Mac version. I don't know why they felt the need to re-record it. It does therefore mean that, I know I said at the start I'd heard Crying in the Night and technically a little bit of Frozen Love, sorry. But I technically heard this one as well because obviously I've heard the Fleetwood Mac album, but I've never heard this version of it before now. And like I say, I prefer this version. The Fleetwood Mac version, Lindsey also sings that. I think they probably did the right thing actually getting Lindsey to sing this one because he does sing it really, really well. You can feel the emotion in his voice. It's like he feels more emotional because he knows it's about him. And obviously he knows that his girlfriend at the time feels these things about him, so you can feel that emotion in his voice. Anyway, yeah, Crystal, great song. It's classic Stevie Nicks really, this one. Another contender for best song on the album. So closing out side one of the record, we have Long Distance Winner, which is another Nicks pen song, which this time she actually does get to sing. Now apparently this song is about Lindsey and the struggles of being in a relationship with a fellow musician. So maybe this is little hints of things starting to go wrong between the pair. We're heading in the rumours direction by this point. Now I've got to be honest with you here, this is not one of my favourite songs on the album. This is probably of Stevie's songs the weakest of them all. By no means is it a bad song. I don't think there is any bad songs on this album for the record, but this one just doesn't feel as strong as some of Stevie's other songs. Nevertheless, her vocals are fantastic on here. Lindsey's guitar playing is also fantastic. It's a decent enough tune. It's just not as strong as the other stuff that comes from Stevie on this album, in my opinion. Right then, folks, we've reached that time again. It's time to take the needle off the record, take it off, flip it over, needle back on, and kicking off side two of the album, we have the lead single, Don't Let Me Down Again, which is a Buckingham pen track, which Lindsey also sings, and it's also the only real rocker on the album. Now, as I said, at the time this was put out as the single, it was the lead single from the album, and I think that was possibly a mistake, based on my own experience with this song, because when I first heard this song the other week when it came out, this was the second thing that got released early for the reissue, I wasn't really blown away by this song. I kind of thought, it's alright, it's not special. But now it's properly grown on me, and I think this is a contender for best track on the album. I really, really like this song. But if I feel like this now, it probably means that back in the 70s when people first heard this, they probably also thought, oh, nah, I'm not interested in that, and they wouldn't go out and buy the single because obviously now when I've been listening to it, I can stream it, so I don't have to physically buy it and spend my own money on it, technically. But back then, if you didn't like it on first listen, you're probably not going to go and spend your money on it so it can grow on you. Which is a shame because it's a fantastic song, this, but I just think Crying in the Night would have been the better lead single, although I think this is still a fantastic song. It's just I don't think it was a great choice for a single. Anyway, nevertheless, it's got a fantastic riff on this song. It's a really, really good rock and roll tune, this. It's the only real rocker on here, and I believe Elvis Presley's rhythm section also played the bass and the drums on this song. I can't remember which rhythm section of Elvis's career it is, but if I remember, I'll put the names down below on the screen now of who it is who's playing along on this track from Elvis's rhythm section. But nevertheless, it's a great tune, this one. Now, another instrumental track comes along next called Django, which is actually a cover song of a song originally by John Lewis, not that John Lewis. Now, this is a short song. It's only about 1 minute and 2 seconds, I think. I think the original is like a 7-minute song, so they've only played a shortened version of this. But because it's an instrumental and it's a cover, it kind of feels like filler. Well, it is filler, it feels to me, this track. It's definitely the weakest track on the album. And I don't understand why they felt the need to put this on, because At this point, the duo, they had a lot of songs that didn't make this album. Yet they felt the need to put an instrumental track on here, which was a cover, where they could have filled the space with one of their own songs, but they didn't make the album. I don't get the logic behind that. It's not a bad cover by any means, it's not a bad instrumental, it's still a nice instrumental, it just feels like filler. Maybe John Lewis should use it in one of their Christmas adverts sometime, how it's being released properly. Track 8 is titled Races Are Run, and this is another Nicks pen track which Stevie gets to sing, and this is another very strong contender for best track on the album. I really like this song. Stevie's vocals on this track are fantastic, and Lindsey's guitar playing complements it beautifully. It's kind of a moody song, this one. It sounds darker, this one. Yeah, it's still got that 70s soft rock vibe, but it seems like a darker version of it. It's a really good song, this one. I can't really explain what it is I love about this song. Just from the get-go, from when I first heard it, I really dug this song. I just seem to have developed an emotional connection with this one. And the harmonies are fantastic on here. That chorus, races are won. Some people win, some people lose, etc. It's a great chorus. It's just a great song, this one. This is Stevie doing what she does best. It's possibly her best track on the album. It's either this or Crying in the Night that get that title. I'm gonna say probably Crying in the Night's the better of the two tracks, but this is a very, very close second. It's a fantastic song, and it was originally released as the B-side to Don't Let Me Down Again. So yeah, interesting choice. I think over here Crystal was released as the B-side over here in England, but yeah. Anyway, it's a great song. Races are Run, not one. Races are... that's a tongue twister, isn't it? Races Are Run is a fantastic track. Stop making tongue twisters, will you two? Now, the penultimate track on the album is called Lola, My Love, which is interesting that they did a song called Lola not long after the Kinks did a fantastic song called Lola, one of my favourite songs. This one is a Buckingham pen track. Lindsey sings it again. Bass is very strong on this song. It's really got a nice little groove to it, this one. Lyrically, however, there's not really that many lyrics to this song. It kind of lyrically reminds me in some ways to Never Going Back Again, obviously, which came on Rumours, in the sense that that is a very strong instrumental track, but the lyrics, there's not really that many of them. It's the same thing here. Musically, it's a very strong track, this. It's not like Never Going Back Again musically, but lyrically, it kind of is in the sense of it being a shorter lyric, if that makes sense. Maybe, I hope it does. But yeah, it's a nice tune, this one. It's not one of my favourites on the album. But it's got a nice little groove to it nevertheless. And finally, closing out the album, we have the most famous track of the album, Frozen Love, the only track that's penned by both Stevie and Lindsey, and it's also sung by both of them. Now, as mentioned in the video, earlier on in the video, this is an important track because this is the one that Mick Fleetwood heard and then went on to ask Lindsey to join the band, and obviously the pair of them would come as a package. I wonder if Lindsey later regretted demanding that Stevie came along as well. It'd have been a very different band if Stevie hadn't gone with him, but nevertheless. So yeah, it's obviously very famous for that reason, and it's historically very important for that reason, but I'm going to be controversial here. I don't really care for this song that much. I can't even put my finger on what it is I don't care about. I don't know if it's a case it goes on too long. It's like 7 minutes long, this song, which is weird because the album itself is a very nice length. It doesn't go on very long, this album. It just fits nicely, but this song is very, very long, if that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it's a great song, don't get me wrong. I can't come on here and say it's a bad song. It's just one I wouldn't gravitate towards too much because of its length. I just feel like it could have been shortened a bit. But historically, it's a very important song. It's a very good song. Stevie and Lindsey are both firing on all cylinders with this song. You can see that they are two fantastic songwriters by this point. They are two fantastic musicians. They are both masters, or about to become masters of their craft. And yeah, it is a good closing track. It's just a song that I don't care for massively, if that makes sense. I hope it does. So to conclude here, Buckingham Nicks is a fantastic album. It's a really solid album, but don't get me wrong, it's not as strong as Rumours, but it does set the groundwork for the direction they are heading in, and it is a very strong, solid album. It's just not as good as what's to come. When it's good, it's really good, this album. Stuff like Crying in the Night, Stephanie, Crystal, Don't Let Me Down Again, Races Are Run, they are the best tracks on the album for me. I know Frozen Love is also a good song, it's just not one that I care for all that much. Something I haven't really said though about this album is because Lindsey sings Crystal, it kind of creates this illusion that this album is much more Buckingham heavy than it is Nicks. When you look at the actual songwriting credits, Stevie writes as many as Lindsey, it's just Lindsey sings more, and obviously he does all the guitar stuff. And because there's two instrumentals on here as well, it gives it this feeling of it being much more Lindsey heavy than it is like Stevie, well, as a collaborative piece. Rambling. But yeah, obviously that's not the case, but it just gives off that impression, which is what I felt a few times listening to it. Not that it's a bad thing, it just feels very Lindsey heavy. Now obviously, like I say, it is great to finally have had this album reissued. We've waited long enough for it. If you had an original pressing, it was worth a lot of money. It probably still is worth a lot of money because there wasn't that many original copies pressed, but thankfully you don't need to go and pay like at least 90, 100 pounds for a copy of this album now. You can get one for 30 quid, which is good. So yeah, I'm pleased we've got this album. It's taken us long enough, but we've got there in the end. It's a great album. If you haven't heard it, give it a listen. It's fantastic. So that concludes this video, folks. Once again, thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please do like the video, subscribe, comment down below what's your favourite track. Do you want an original copy of this? If you do, then yeah, that'd be really interesting to know. I don't actually know if this album got released outside America back in the 70s. I know it's very, 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 very hard to find a copy of an original copy of this here in England, but I don't know if it got released at the time. I don't know if that's why. Anyway, yes, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And I think that's all I've got to say. So thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I will go and recover from COVID now, and I will see you all on a future video. But until then, do take care.